When we think of tornadoes, we think usually the tornadoes that are short-lived, small, and not as destructive. But then there are those that can do a lot of damage in such a short amount of time and last many, many miles potentially, going to ground for dozens of miles. We've seen a lot of destructive tornadoes over the last 100 years or so, and so I figured why not. And this idea came to mind just recently, as I'm about to talk about right now. This is my personal listing. This would sort of be accurate if you were to really want to make it as such. This is the top 10 most violent tornadoes of all time. Now, there has been a lot of violent tornadoes. Some have really. There are those, though, that have really just made a mark, and it's getting already hot in here, so I gotta turn this back on. If the fan noise bothers you, I apologize about that. But let's get to the list, but there are a couple of honorable mentions before we get into it. The first one is the New Richmond, Wisconsin tornado from 1899. This was a disaster for this city. I think the fatalities were in the triple digits. Yeah, 112 people, I think, were killed when a destructive F5 tornado ripped through this town. The flying debris made things a lot more dangerous because some of the fatalities occurred when debris was just flying into the shelters that were exposed to the elements. Very destructive tornado. The other one is Transylvania, Louisiana, going into Inverness, Mississippi in 1971. This was an early season outbreak in February of that year, which this was the only F5 ever recorded in Louisiana state history. 47 people killed. This was a violent tornado, just destroying many small homes. A lot of people were caught off guard by this too. It was just crazy down there. And now let's get into the listing. Number 10 is Mulhall, Oklahoma from 1999. This was an impressive tornado, unfortunately. And one that got a world record, believe it or not. Yeah, this tornado holds a world record for the widest width in terms of winds. So several researchers believe that this tornado may have been more violent than the Bridge Creek Moore tornado. We might touch base on that later in the video. Down estimated velocity of 257 miles per hour. That's like back then, that was nearly F5 intensity in the threshold with winds. Now, this tornado was the widest in terms of its wind field, measured quantitatively for 4 miles, but the tornado itself was a mile in diameter. A huge tornado, to say the least. Number 9 is the Tracy, Minnesota tornado from 1968. This is going to be seen as an odd pick for some of you weather enthusiasts, but this tornado has got to be on this list because, from what I've read on it, there was mention that this tornado had wind speeds of over 300 miles per hour. I don't think that's entirely true, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was that strong due to the fact of what the damage it caused, what I'm about to talk about. So it destroyed 111 homes, caused major damage to 76. 5 businesses were destroyed and 15 others were damaged. Some homes only had their foundations left behind. That's characteristic of F5, EF5 damage. Few farms outside of the town were swept completely away and extensive ground scouring occurred. Also characteristics of F5, EF5 tornadoes. Heavy boxcar was thrown more than the block. 2 other boxcars were thrown 300 yards. And a steel I-beam was carried for 2 miles on a piece of roof. This was a destructive tornado, to say the least. This was rated F5. I forgot to mention the Mulhall tornado was rated F4. But this tornado killed 9 people, and it was in southwest Minnesota. Very, actually close to Chandler and Lake Wilson, which were also hit by an F5 back in 1992. So they have their fair share of history in that region. Number 8 is the Phil Campbell, Hackleburg, Alabama tornado from the super outbreak of 2011. Oh my god. This was horrible. I'm just going to flat out say it. Out of the 300 and something fatalities this outbreak had, 72 of those fatalities came from this tornado alone. Later rated EF5, this tornado nearly leveled Hackleburg. Trees were completely debarked. Road was like new road that got paved was completely ripped up from the ground. Homes were completely gone. This was a destructive tornado that was on the ground for 122 miles. It was also the widest tornado in the outbreak, spanning over a mile wide. That was crazy. This tornado was something else, I'll tell you that. Number 7 is Jordan, Iowa from 1976. Oh boy, this tornado was Very intense. Now I'm just going to flat out just read what it did. So, a half-mile wide F5, in which, and this town is in the center of Iowa, is famously called Midway and Harmon Switch. Now, its present name's after the Jordan River. It basically, it destroyed virtually every house and business building in the community. All residents survived, no fatalities, thankfully. It was accompanied by an F3 anticyclonic tornado, tornadoes that spin in the opposite direction. Those are 1% of all tornadoes, by the way, too. One unusual aspect of the F5 cyclonic and the F3 anticyclonic tornado was the simultaneous right turn made by each. And Dr. Ted Fujita, the great Ted Fujita, the originator of the Fujita scale, said the tornado which hit Jordan, the F5, was one of the most intense and destructive he had ever studied. And this has to make this list because of that reason. Jordan, Iowa was flattened, literally. Number 6 is an old one. Oakville, Indiana, from April of 1884. We're going way back when. But this tornado among contemporary meteorologists was among the most destructive and most powerful at the time. Some parts of town literally vanished. Yep, some parts of town literally vanished because of this tornado. I think 8 people were killed in this tornado. Can't remember, but yeah, Oakville, Indiana was basically kind of wiped off the map from this tornado. Like as in number 5, Sunfield, Illinois, from December 1957. Sunfield was a small community in central Illinois. It still is a community, but I'm about to explain why it was wiped off the map literally and what the aftermath was. So, the extreme damage only occurred in the small settlement, which when the tornado's damage, it happened in that settlement, was reportedly completely vanished. Sunfield had completely vanished, wiped off the map. It was gone. As of 2012, the community is now located to the south of the intersection, perhaps due to the tornado. Most likely. I wouldn't say perhaps. One fatality in this one, but still, rated F5, it was absolutely a just incredible tornado. It must have been kind of big, too, from the sounds of it, because of being small like that and just how it completely tore up the town. Incredible, incredible. Number 4 is El Reno 2011. Oh my lord. This was, I'm just going to flat out say it was an ugly tornado, as you're going to see in the top corner. Easily EF5. I mean, there's no question about it. This tornado was just absolutely intimidating. At one point, somebody measured wind speeds of 280 miles per hour, only 220 feet off the ground. That's not high up off the ground at all, believe it or not. And just what a destructive tornado it was. On the ground for over 60 miles on a very volatile, high-risk day, this tornado completely leveled parts of El Reno and parts of near Yukon, went all up to near Guthrie, Oklahoma, near I-35. 9 fatalities. This was just a violent tornado. An oil tanker had rolled 3 times, and that thing weighs like 2 million pounds or something like that. It was just, it was incredible. Let me figure out what I can read off of this too. It was insane. It had a significantly longer path than the Bridge Creek tornado and may have also been more intense, though such comparison is purely speculation. It became rain wrecked at one point too. So, just a daunting tornado. The picture in the corner is from a video of Pico's Hank chasing the storm. He got pretty close to the tornado. Please go check it out. He's a great storm chaser, by the way. I like watching his videos. Number 3, speaking of Moore, 1999, Moore, Oklahoma, the infamous tornado, I like to call this now. I talked about in my top 20 weather events that shaped my career towards wanting to be a meteorologist that this tornado is just absolutely phenomenal. The highest wind speeds ever measured globally, 301 miles per hour. Oh man. Yeah, there's no way you're going to survive that if you're above ground. That's like insane wind speeds. You just cannot. You can't even describe it. This tornado was on the ground for 90 minutes. It just destroyed a lot of things in its path. A lot of homes destroyed in this one. This remains one of the strongest tornadoes of all time, and obviously the strongest in terms of wind speeds of all time. Won't change at all. I don't think, no matter what happens. Number 2 is a 2-way tie. Sherman, Texas, and the Tri-State Tornado. I think a lot of you are going to be kind of mad at me about the Tri-State Tornado being at number 2, but there's good reason. We'll get to that. Sherman, Texas. Well, let's talk about the Tri-State Tornado first. the longest track tornado in U.S. history, also the most deadliest tornado in U.S. history, and also the fastest forward speed ever in U.S. history. Just all three records combined with one tornado, it was just meant for disaster. Numerous communities leveled, like I think it was Gorham, cities in Missouri, went through southeast Missouri and all of southern Illinois and southwest Indiana, anticipating near Griffin, Indiana, or Griffin was completely demolished. It lived near Petersburg. There is actually there's an analysis that it could have been a tornado family. There's still some speculation, though, as there will always be with much older events, like especially with the one Sherman, Texas. We have to go back all the way back to May of 1896 for this one. This is one of the most violent tornadoes in history. I mean, there is just no other way to say it. Of course, homes and stuff like that, the code for homes and all that, not obviously up to date with what's now, but it doesn't change the fact that this was just extremely serious. 70 plus people were killed in this tornado, and I mean the carnage was absolutely unbelievable. This tornado was a part of an outbreak that was termed by Thomas Grzillis, who is a well-known person within tornado research. He described it as probably the most violent week of tornadoes in the entire country's history. So, mind blown at that point. But number one's also a 2-way-10. I think it's pretty obvious with these two. Gerald, Texas from 97, and Gillen, Alabama from the original super outbreak. Let's talk about Gillen first. Yeah, and then I gotta bring this up too, the F6 rating. Now, for those who don't know, there used to be, the Fujita scale when it was originally introduced, there was F0 to F12, F12, Mach 1, the speed of sound. Oh man, there was the F6 rating that was applied back then with the old Fujita scale. Now it's not even included anymore with the EF scale, it's just EF 0 to 5. F6, inconceivable, meaning no tornado or such tornado has ever happened. This was one of the very rare cases in which it could have been applied to, and then there was talk about it, because this tornado was, well, what do I even say? Foundations were even dislodged. Now, for an EF5 tornado to even occur, or for one to be rated as such, you need homes have to be completely swept away. Trees, the bark, roads completely ripped too at times. Ground scouring extensive, we're talking maybe even over a foot in depth. This tornado even dislodged foundations. Yeah, it was that powerful. One of the strongest tornadoes of all time in general, most violent ones. I don't think anything could hold up a candle though to Gerald, Texas. This is the most ugliest tornado I know about in terms of the damage and the aftermath. I talked about in the same video I just mentioned not too long ago that this is easily the worst tornado I know about, and you can go check out why it is. I'm just going to briefly say it here. This tornado's slow speed with the wind speeds it had completely changed everything. I mean, the exacerbation of the damage was unbelievable. The entire subdivision, Jarrett Creek Estates, was completely wiped off the map. There was nothing left. Cattle was tumbled. It was bad. It was super bad. It was a worst case scenario that, and I even passed by Gerald, Texas on the storm chase trip, and it sent chills through me a little bit, knowing that probably the single-handedly most destructive tornado happened right or over just west of I-35. The tornado stayed just west of I-35 the entire lifespan, and it also had unusual movement too, and the fact that it did that, moved southwest. But that's it for all of you. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and comment and subscribe if you're new. Don't be shy. Hey, some more videos like this are coming though, with tornado, with like weather stuff and all of that, and also, of course, music reviews and all that stuff, tops of lists and ranked. You name it, it's going to be on here. Trust me. But what are your thoughts on the most violent tornadoes of all time? I'm sure I'm leaving quite a few out, but if there's any that I left out, please let me know below, and we can have a conversation on that. I'd like to have a conversation with you guys on that. But for now, I'll check you guys out later. Take care.